Yeah, hello everyone and welcome back. So today we are going to discuss the another topic in Angular, that is routing in Angular application. So what is routing? So routing in Angular refer to a mechanism by which application navigate between different pages or or like without causing a full page refresh. So basically we know that Angular is full of component and and it is a single page application. It means only a index.html get loads, and then further with the routing we can embed the different component HTML pages to that index.html. So if we have to navigate to a different page, then we don't need to refresh the whole page or whole application. So the movement from one page to another page is done very like seamlessly using the routing concept. So it allows you to define navigation path and map them specific component, enabling user to move seamlessly within a single page application. So basically what we do, we map a certain URL to a certain component, so that whenever the Angular will intercept that this URL is hit, or the request is or the request is coming from this URL, then it is going to call that component or load that component, right? So it allows you to define navigation path and map the specific component with the URL. So this is all about the routing. So what Angular routing involves, basically we need to define the route array. So in Angular module, so that is called as app.routing.module. In that file you need to add the routes array, and then in that array you need to define all the mappings, like which URL will load which component, right? So each route specifies a URL path and the component that should be displayed when path is matched. And and the router module is from @angular/router package. So the second thing involved is the navigating between views. So when a user click on a link or a perform an action that triggered a route change, then Angular router intercept the request and matches the URL path to define a route and display the associated component in a designated router outlet selector placeholder. Basically, in application dot component dot html we define router outlet selector as a placeholder, and this tag will be replaced by the component, right? Yeah, so all these things we are going to see in our application how to implement it. So the third is it content handling parameter and query string. It means that routes can include dynamic segment parameters and a query parameter. So it allowing you to pass the data between the component or fetch specific content based on the user input or application state. So we can transfer the data also, and we can fetch and the data from a different component to a different component, right? So this is all about the routing content. Now let's see the key uses and the benefit of routing. So if we use routing in Angular application, then the first benefit we get as a single page application navigation. So it help in navigation. So without any like refresh, we need we can we can navigate from one page to another page in a very smooth manner, and this is more responsive user experience compared to the traditional multi-pages application. Because Angular is a single page application, only one file, that is index.html, get load, and under that all the component or the all the pages get load. So the real refresh is not required in this. Second benefit is like the modular application structure. So in Angular you can make your Angular application to a different modules. So you can organize your application into feature modules and route between them using routing concept. Angular promotes a modular structure that enhance code organization and maintainability and the scalability and also reusability of that particular code, right? So third benefit is like code separation and reusability. So with the modular functionality you can reuse the modules to the different component or the different part of your application. So each route typically correspond to a specific component or view. So there is a particular route or the URL for loading a particular component in application. So this, yeah, so component can easily reuse across different routes or modules, right? So this is like very kind of like beneficial like feature as the code separation and the reusability. So the fourth is like lazy loading. Angular routing supports lazy loading. What is lazy loading? Basically, lazy loading means it loads when it get required. When the user want to load, then only we will load any component in Angular. So let's say when the application get start, so at that time we are not going to load all the component in the Angular. Otherwise, our Angular may get stuck or the memory get filled, right? Because it is a very heavy process to load all the component in a starting only. So there we go with a lazy loading concept, that we have to load the component as per their requirement. When the user want it, or with a click event, we can load that particular component. So Angular routes support lazy loading, where modules are loaded on demand only when the user navigate to their respective routes. So this improves initial loading time by loading only the essential part of the application startup. So this will make or like bootstrap your Angular application in a very fastly, because in the starting when the application bootstrap, we don't need to load every component in the starting. We will load as per the requirement. With the routing, it will match the URL and then it will load that particular component, right? So these are the some uses and the benefit of routing in Angular. Now let's go to the code directly and let's see how we can implement routing in Angular in a real application. So this is my application. So but one thing you have to remember, that when you create a new application, so Angular CLI will give the option whether you want to add Angular routing with that or not. So there's, you have to click on yes, and then you need to add the routing. So when you will select routing functionality to be added in your Angular application, then the Angular CLI will create one module called as app routing module.ts file. So this is very important routing module, in which you see it has a routes array, okay, as a default. And in this array we need to add the path and the component which we want to load with that particular path. And then in the ng module we need to import router module dot for root, and this is the for root method. In this we need to pass the routes array, right? So this will make your routing configuration. So only as a developer you don't need to configure the routing. If you select in the initial time when you are creating the application, if you want to go with the routing, then you have to select yes, and then you have to add the routing feature in your application. So then this module will get generate automatically. And also there is one more change in the app module.ts file. You see, in the app module.ts file, this app routing module is imported. So basically app module is the default module file, this is the base module file, and in this your routing module will get import, right? So these are the changes you will get by default when you add the routing feature in Angular while creating your application. Now what I will do, I will create three links. Let's say home, about, contact. And if the user click on home, then it will load your home component. If the user click on contact, then it will load the contact component. If the user click on about, then it will load the about page or the about component in your application. And there you will see that there will be no any refresh will done when the user want to load any particular application in your Angular. All right. So for that what we need to do, for that we need to decide, we need to call create three components. So in the component folder, let me move to component folder. So in this component folder I need to create three component. Okay, so let's start with ng generate component, let's say home. So with the ng generate component home, this will create home component. in our Angular application. Now let's generate another component with the name about. So in this you can provide the data for the about page of your application. Now let's add another component. Let's say contact, which will contain all the contact information of yours in this page. So here I will show you how the user will click to these links and then it will load these components. Okay, so three component we created: about, contact, and home. So let's go to the HTML and let's see what we have. In the about HTML, about works. So let me change it to, yeah, you can keep it as it is. In the contact, contact works, and in the home, home works. Now let's design a layout. So let's go to the application component.html. You see here it is empty. So here we need to add the HTML layout. Let's say HTML layout. So for that, let's create. So let me add a header as a xadmin application, and then next let's create a navigation. For that we can use nav tag, and then you can provide the class. Let's say nav links. Okay, so this class I will create sometime in the css file. Okay, and this class will contain the css. So in this navigation tag, let's add the route tags. Okay, so here the router link equals to slash. So this I want to load with a slash. Okay, so here I don't means in the starting the home. Okay, so I want to load the home component. Okay, so here the user does not need to click anything. It will just get loaded when your application get load. Okay, so let me provide the header as home. So you see home has URL mapped with slash. So now let me copy this. Let's change the URL for about. So you can simply route slash about. So whenever in the URL, if you're writing about, then it is going to map with the slash about URL. So that will be get mapped on the route array. So that I will define means tell you into some time. Yeah, after some time. So this is the second link I created. Now let me add the third link. Let's say contact, and here contact. All right, so these are the three header I just added in the HTML: home, about, contact. All right, so this class I have created, right? Nav link. So let me go to the CSS and add. Yeah, so here you see I added the classes which says a display flags, padding, and font size bold. Yeah, so this will provide some gap between these headers. Okay, this is a simple CSS I have just used. Now the important thing is that in the HTML app component.html we need to add one selector, that is router outlet. Okay, this router outlet is very important. This placeholder is going to replace by the component which we want to add. Basically this app component.html will show this, and just beneath this router outlet we are using. So basically all the component like home, about, contact are going to come just beneath this, right? So this is the router outlet which will get replaced by your component which you will load it. So this is the important placeholder you need to include to your HTML file. Now let's go to the app routing module.ts file. So this is very important, where you map the URL with the component. So I say map the URL with the component. It means we have to map particular URL to a particular component. So when the Angular route will intercept this URL, then it will load particular component. So for that we need to write path. Okay, and then we need to provide this empty. Okay, why I am providing empty? So that I want that by default it should load our home component. Okay, we don't need to create click anything. So let me call home component. All right, so this home component already we have created. So this is be called in the starting itself. Let me add more path. Let's say you want to add path for about. Okay, so if the application route will intercept about, then what it is going to call, this is going to load about component. All right, in the similar manner, let me add another path. And here, if the path is like contact, so Angular is going to load contact component. So these three are the path I have just added to to showcase you how we can use router to load different component with a user link, right? Yeah, so this is the one change you have to do in the route array. Inside application routing module, you need to add the path, and you have to map a path with a particular component which you want to load. Okay, and in the application component.html, you need to add this tag router outlet. Okay, and this is optional. Okay, maybe you can click yeah, and maybe you can do a method click, and then you can use this router link from there also, right? So this is the way in which the routing works. So let me save this, and now let me show you by doing ng serve. So when we do ng serve, okay, so let it get start. Before that, let's see what we did. Okay, in the application module, we just added home component, about component to the declaration, and here the importing will be done by the Angular itself. In the routing module, we added this path and component mapping. That's all. And in the app component.html, we have added this placeholder and then certain links. Okay, so let's go directly to this, and you see here, you see the application component.html get load. Here we have the three contacts, and the home work is loading as a default, because there we have used slash. So this is the so this will load by default. Now we need to click on about. So when we click about, then the router link will send slash route, and when the Angular route will intercept that there is a slash route in the URL, then it is going to see if this is in the path or not. So here you see about is there, so it should load about component. So let's go and click on about. Yeah, so you see when I click about, here you see about slash is going in the URL, and then it is loading our about component. So so if you observe, so there is no refresh, right? So let's click on contact. So when you click on contact, you see the contact URL get changed and the contact component is getting loaded. Okay, so this is the navigation where you can use like horizontally and like vertical navigation also. We have seen in some of the application the vertical navigation is also there. So the same concept you can use, the vertical navigation you can create for your application modules, and you can load the particular pages with this router link. So this is very straightforward like approach. Only you need to map the path with a particular component which you want to load, and in the application component.html this placeholder will get replaced by that component, right? Yeah, so this is all about the routing, and next we will see in the next lecture. Thank you.